Welcome to the Shootin The Que podcast, presented by Heath Riles Barbecue, with tips, tricks, and an inside look with some of the top pitmasters in the game. Now here's your host, Heath Riles.
All right, we're back today on Shootin The Que, and of course, I'm joined with my lovely wife, Candace, and we have a special guest in house today, Mr. Ryan Lane from Lane's Barbecue. How are you today?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you guys, both of y'all, for having me. So it's a pleasure to be out. It's been an awesome, beautiful drive from Georgia out to Mississippi, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Well, man, first off, tell everybody that don't know who you
Sure.
are or don't know about Lane's Barbecue, kind of who you are, how y'all got started.
Yeah,
all that kind of good
absolutely.
stuff.
So I guess I would say I'm like a retired insurance guy. You know, I guess I was no good at insurance, but that's probably why they just kicked me out. So my brother started an insurance brokerage about 16 years ago. So they did group health benefits. Worked with him for about 5 years. I actually did a lot of different things before I realized, like, you know what, it's time just to kind of settle in on what I like to do. So I did mortgages, real estate, insurance, and right out of school, I actually was a service consultant at an Audi dealership, which is really fun. But so I finally, what we did is we sold a 401k account and got like a big pull behind smoker. And I've always loved cooking, love feeding people, love serving. And so what we wanted to try to do kind of in the thinking different thing is most insurance companies would come in for a renewal meeting. They'd bring you sandwiches and, you know, they set everything up and then they deliver the bad news, right? Because insurance is never anything but bad news, it seems like. And so we started cooking barbecue. So I would stay up all night, do briskets and butts, and we'd bring in all this food. Everyone was just happy. And then I would check out. My brother would come in, deliver the bad news, but everyone was okay with it, you know? And so that was kind of like our thing. In fact, we still kind of do it. He just orders it now. And then we did biscuits last week, and we can kind of get into that later. But I just knew that I was not doing what I was supposed to be doing. And so I don't know. It's one of those things where you feel it and you're like, I got two small kids. My wife is a teacher at a small little private Christian school, which you're basically working for free. And I was like, I'm walking away from a book of business that I've been building to kind of go do this other thing. But after just kind of peppering her, my wife likes to call it throwing darts. So I just throw out a bunch of ideas, and then when one hits, I just kind of run with it, you know? And so finally she was like, all right, you can do that. And so there was a produce stand that's about 10 minutes from our house, and we used to go to it every Sunday after church, and we'd stock up, and I noticed it was never barbecue there. And so I stopped by, and she's like, yes, you can go try it out. And so I stopped by on a Wednesday, and I was like, hey, Dave, like, Can someone come sell barbecue here if they want to? And he's like, yeah, but like a couple things, man. Like it better not suck. And don't run out. Like I want people to like get here. And I'm like, okay, well, I have a smoker. I can do a lot of stuff. And so we put it out. That's kind of, we were talking about like MySpace and all that. Like I made a Facebook account pretty much just to tell people about this. And so it turns out like, just our network of, you know, everyone showed up, all our friends and family, and we did sell out. And it was one of those things I was like, Dave, I'm so sorry. And he's like, bro, when can you come back? And I was like, are you okay? And he's like, everyone like came inside. They all bought stuff. Everyone was happy. And I'm like, man, Stace, maybe we're onto something. And so we went back for about another 3 months. And then someone turned us in because I wasn't doing it the right way. I had a catering license, but I didn't have something to set up basically on the side of the road, so which turned out to be a huge blessing. That's when we got our barbecue shack, and that's kind of where the catering kind of actually still goes on today. So I know that's probably a long answer to a question, but
No, it's generally, for some reason, I got started cooking and catering too, just feeding friends. And then I had friends that started with a dirt track and they wanted me to cook barbecue, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just was going to barbecue contests. They was like, why don't you just sell sandwiches up here? And that turned into me cutting a window in the side of a trailer and selling sandwiches with slaw on them. And I just started bankrolling money. So I get what you're saying. Catering is always a good base ground because when you get somebody that tells you that's the best barbecue they ever had, I mean, let's face it, it's one of those those fuzzy feelings that us barbecue guys get that
I love
everybody wants to hear it.
Absolutely. I think that's why I do it. Like, that's the serving piece. A lot of times I'll stay up all night cooking, you serve it, and then you go home and eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Yeah. Like, I can't stand the smell anymore. Like, I'm like, all right, I just want to shower, like, eat a sandwich and go to bed, you know? And that is like the most fulfilling thing for me, is just like seeing the smiles on people.
I feel that way too. About
she does
barbecue.
Not feel about, well, yeah, she doesn't like barbecue. I almost like
general.
Have a bunch of vegetarians now. So I think them trying everything. She's like, how about Zaxby's? Like, you know, you want to try something different tonight? I'm like,
I get it.
I was just curious because everybody's like, oh, you get to eat so much barbecue. I'm like, I don't want it. Yeah. Like, I just really don't want it. But yeah.
She'll go to school and people are like, oh man, did y'all eat that last night? Because we'll post something on Instagram or whatever. And she's like, no, we had fettuccine or like pasta with butter and, you know, pretty much that. And they're like, wait, what?
Yeah. You didn't want to eat that? Like, what's wrong with you?
I know.
So the catering, I guess, involved into the barbecue business. How did that transition there?
Yeah, so catering, basically, I realized in about a year and a half doing it. Now, when I say by myself, like, I had friends and family that would help us on the weekend. But for the most part, I was going and buying the stuff, cooking the stuff, prepping it, delivering it, taking the orders, invoicing, collecting money, doing all that stuff. And I was like, there is not going to be enough time in the day or, like, you know, time for me to, like, build a business, see this through. I'm going to burn myself out. And so I did a bunch of research, and this was probably now, so I started 10 years ago, about 8 years ago. I was like, man, I really think that seasonings could be the way to go. You know, I was seeing things on Instagram and just that barbecue community, like, our starts are a lot, like, I never did the competition barbecue. And so ours was kind of just backyard cooking, you know, and I was like, man, I think the seasoning game is going to be pretty big. And I remembered, like, doing the math, and I was like, man, I can get these spices, the bottles, the labels, all this stuff. And I told my wife, and I was like, all right, Stace, like, I figured it up. It's going to cost about $2,000, but I've saved it away in the catering side, and so I can pull it. And she's like, Ryan, she's going to kill me for saying this. She's like, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. No one is going to buy $8 like bottles of seasoning. And I'm like, challenge accepted. You know, like, I'm up for the challenge. And I was like, if it loses, it loses. But I was like, we're going to kill them with customer service. And, like, that's going to be our thing. And that's kind of just took off from there. So, like, right timing, a lot of luck, and, like, a ton of hard work. So, great team, too.
So what capacity do you manufacture at now? Because you're your own manufacturer. You've bought your own machines.
Yeah.
Your own co-packing machines, bottle machines, line machines, everything,
That's
right?
Yeah. So we are fully automated on the seasoning side. Well, I'd say fully automated once it's mixed. So we've got a big mixer. We mix everything. And then, you know, we've got the whole line set up for the seasoning. So the descrambler that rolls it up, fills it, caps it, seals it, labels it, and then we pull it off, pop it in a case, and throw it in. And then on the sauce side, it's not quite fully automated. So we've got 3 60-gallon kettles that we mix everything in, and then we've got a 4-pump, like, filler, but you got to kind of feed them through and take them off, cap them, label them. I would say rub to sauce, though, it's probably 75-25 seasonings to sauces.
Yeah. That's generally what it is with the majority, I think, of all rub and sauce businesses. Yeah. The rub definitely is a higher 60-plus, 70-plus yield.
Which is great because it's a lot easier to make, less headaches going through it.
Better to ship.
Way better to ship. We can talk about that, too, man. We used to have sauces in glass bottles.
I remember when you were in glass.
My goodness. I fought it for so long. And when my brother-in-law, his name's Thor. I think everyone needs a superhero that works with him, right? So Thor, like, we're in our ops meeting, and he takes a bottle and he throws it to me. But, like, no way I could catch it. And I'm like, oh, God. And it, like, hits the ground and it bounces. And I'm like, bro, what is that? He's like, it's plastic. And I was like, we need to make the switch. He's like, yeah. I know. I've been telling you.
Just
but, like, I
you.
needed you to see. He's like, glass prices have doubled. and shipping were like getting so much breakage. And our stores, like, I was like, all right, let's call some stores and see. And they're like, finally. Like, why didn't you do it a long time ago? And I was like, oh, I thought you wanted it. That, you know what I mean? Always, it was definitely a great life lesson. And, like, don't assume.
Now, do you feel like glass looks better than plastic?
I felt like it did. But then now that I see it in the plastic, I'm like, it looks better because it's not broken. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm not eating that.
That's right. Like, they would much rather a product that they can put on their shelves instead of like trying to clean off 10 bottles that have like residue on them from one bottle breaking.
Well, and as you know, the more you expand, that one broken or two broken bottles, like you said, are either trying to clean it, or most bigger stores are going to go, we're not even taking that. We're knocking that whole case off the invoice. And
that's right.
Either A, throw it all in the trash and just credit your invoice.
Well, that's what we would tell them. Like, hey, we're going to send you another case. Like, have your employees each take a bottle home. Like, you know, they can crack it open, eat it. Like, they all do like their little
Mom and
customer
Pops
days.
is great for that.
Yeah.
But
the bigger stores.
Bigger stores, it goes straight in the dumpster, which is so sad. So much food and so much inventory like that, especially big stores. I mean, when I was in the beverage industry, I used to see it all the time, and it just never made no sense from a financial standpoint. It seemed like somebody would be going, okay, this fruit or these vegetables are not ruined yet. Why are we not trying to give them to a food bank or this or that?
The problem I think we've made is such a litigious society, and I think everyone's worried about the liability. I'm like, yeah, people are hungry. You know what I mean? Like, at what point, like, could you, do that? But,
make an impact.
Yeah, but the bigger they are, the more lawyers. So
you're right. The more lawyers and the more stuff.
Yeah,
that's well. Talking about that, I'm assuming you're an Alabama fan, right?
No. In fact, I'm the fan of the number one team in the nation. So
Georgia Bulldogs.
Georgia Bulldogs. Yeah. So they're in our backyard. So Bethlehem is about 20 minutes from Athens. But I don't know when this will air, but this weekend's gonna be a tough test. We got Kentucky coming to town. Kentucky whipped Florida last week. So Georgia's they haven't looked great this year, but they haven't really played anyone either. So we'll see. This will be they played Auburn last week.
Yeah.
A bunch of turnovers, but.
Yeah, I seen what was the score of that game. Auburn was leading for the longest, right?
They were through half, and then Georgia's always a second half team, though. They start slow.
Got to get that motivation in the locker room.
They adjust really well. Yeah. So, but yeah.
Wow.
This weekend we'll see. It could be a tough test.
Well, do you think they have what it takes to win another championship?
I think so. I think their schedule aligns pretty well too. Next year is going to be a lot tougher. They do got Alabama, I think LSU, and maybe a couple other tough games. But this year, I mean, Kentucky's probably one of the toughest tests that they'll face. Missouri's pretty good, but the East isn't that strong.
Yeah, I know. I've been watching a little bit of Colorado just because I'm interested in Dion Sanders, and I'm always asking her what time's that game on. She keeps the SEC app.
I keep the SEC stuff, and he's like, "What about this?" I'm like, "It's not SEC. I don't know."
It's not SEC, and I will say though, like whether you like or dislike Dion, like a guy who will stand up for, he don't care. Like
no. 100%.
He'll stick to his faith, stick to what he believes, and so like I mean, yes, it's not my style. But mad props,
I mean, mad props. I'm with
and
you.
He'll put in the work to back it up.
He will.
I think that's the most important piece. So he's not just all talk.
He will. It was. I've seen some of the speeches he's give lately to like some of the reporters, and he's like, "I am a winner."
Yeah.
He said, "I'm trying to coach these kids to be winners, and it's just not about the football field.
Yeah.
Making real men out of them, making real fathers out of them." And I thought that was you don't hear a lot of coaches talking with that kind of inspiration to kids that are getting NIL money, and I mean they're just not.
I'd love to know what Lane Kiffin says to his players.
Yeah,
I'm
I
an Ole
would
Miss
too.
fan.
So
Lane
like
just
Ole
entertains
Miss, like
me
through and through. I was going to ask.
I am
Pretty much.
I was raised that way.
Yeah,
pretty much.
He claims that he likes Alabama
I do
sometimes,
watch
which
some
I don't
Alabama
know how you
football.
can be an Ole Miss fan and an Alabama fan personally, but that's just my opinion.
I was a Nick Saban fan. I mean, Nick Saban's a good coach.
You were, so you're not now.
I still am.
He said.
But now I'm going to be fully up on honest. I've always said this, and you know that I have. I do feel like Alabama's always been a caliber above some teams because I felt like they played with that money way before and just never got caught.
Yeah.
Other teams have gotten caught, and now that the NIL has made it so easy for these kids or so much for the boosters to pay them.
Yeah.
it's changing the whole game. And I tell you who the sleeper of the bunch is Texas.
Well,
you got
Texas
a lot of oil
already
money
showing
out,
out. Yeah,
they are.
They're having a good start. So who'd they beat? LSU or was it LSU or Florida State? One of those. I don't know. I know they came out and they won that first game.
One of them's ranked. Texas is ranked number 3, and then Texas A&M is in the top. Now, you used to never see them in the top.
Like I said, the West is a lot lot
It is. You got a lot of old money out there, and so you're going to start seeing that pop up eventually. And we know how Texas is about football, but it's. I mean, even with Georgia, I mean, Kirby Smart's a great coach, and they've got a lot of stuff figured out, and so now I don't think Saban's going to be the coach anymore.
No, plus I think Kirby learned a lot from Saban. Actually, all those guys,
every one of them are great.
You know what I mean? They all kind of came up under him. So we'll see what's the next layer of coaches coming out of those. So
it's kind of funny we talk about football, and that's kind of the way barbecue is around here for us. There were so many older, I guess, people that cook barbecue and taught some of the ones us to cook, and now we've taught ones to cook, and you see them coming up and cooking. But I don't know, barbecue's kind of progressed, kind of like the football thing about coaching and winners and people winning now, spinoffs.
Drama.
Yeah.
Drama. Yeah, it's
so that's where we haven't seen a lot of the drama.
Well,
not being on the competition.
I was about to say, you stay away from competition, you won't have to see a lot of that.
Yeah.
Well, talking about the competition side, I know you never had any experience in it. Have you ever given any thought that you wanted to do it?
Yes. So I had. So we actually. So before Lanes, we actually started, and we won a couple trophies, but it was more like people's choice. We weren't winning trophies, we're judges. It was hey, come on in, try our stuff. But we did a couple in Cumming, Georgia, Randall Bowman. Yeah. I forget the name of it.
Deep South.
Deep South Smokers, but it was the event that they put on.
Yeah, Cumin and Cummins, or the fairgrounds one.
Is at the fairgrounds. Yeah, we did that one twice. And really, we loved it. It was so much fun. But the problem is then I started catering, and catering paid the bills. And competitions, when you're not competitive at it, just cost us money. And I was like, guys, if we just want to sit around and drink, maybe we can do it on a Wednesday night. And then I can cater, you know what I mean? We cater on the weekend. That's right. So we just never did a ton of it. But
well, talking about catering, so you have a Biscuit Friday and Saturday. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Biscuit started, so I'll go back kind of a long time ago. So growing up, my parents divorced when I was 5. My mom worked several jobs growing up. My dad still lived close by, but we lived with my mom. And a meal that we ate at night a lot of times was homemade biscuits and jam, maybe a couple sausage patties or something like that. But that was what I always go back to food is kind of comfort, and it reminds you of growing up. And I think that's part of my favorite part about food is its fellowship. That's where most things happen, around the table. It's just something about biscuits. It was about 5 years ago. I went out to my mom's house and I was like, hey, at this point in time, we're still catering really, really heavy. But we didn't have that community feel. I wanted more in the community because it was turning more towards seasonings, and seasonings was kind of taking off. And so she's like, all right, what are you talking about? I was like, I want to make biscuits. She's like, okay, well, I got a simple one. It's your grandfather's recipe. And I'm like, that's exactly what I want. So it's 3 ingredients. Literally, it's milk, butter, and self-rising flour. That's it. And I was like, that is right up my alley. Super easy. And so we made them right there. And she's like, all right, you want to practice some more? I'm like, no, I think we're just going to start it next Friday. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I don't know. The only way I feel to learn
is to do it.
Get my hands in it. And so we started I guess it's been about 4 or 5 years ago. And I was like, I know we need a brisket biscuit. Yeah. We love pimento cheese. So I was like, we're going to do a brisket and pimento cheese. We'll do sausage and bacon. We'll keep it super simple. And we put it out there on our social media channels and, told the school and local church and some of the local businesses and just hey, guys, if you want to stop by, it's going to be Friday from 6 to 9 a.m. And the way our building is, there's not a drive-through, or it's a little walk-up area, but it looks like a house. People are a lot of times they're like, where does your family live? And I'm like, they don't live here. This isn't a residential home, you know what I mean? But And so they would come in and do biscuits, and it just kind of like snowballed. Like we would just run out and biscuits luckily are easy to kind of just keep remaking. But like can't just like smoke a brisket. Yeah. I mean, you run out and you run out. And so it just kind of caught fire, and then COVID hit, and I was like, I know we're not going to be able to cater as much. Luckily, the seasoning we can talk more about that. I mean, just skyrocketed. Everyone's at home cooking, and so I was like, you know what? The first day after, I just walked in the crew, and I was like, listen, guys, we're not shutting down. If you're uncomfortable, like, take some time off. But, like, I think the community needs us more than ever right now. And so, like, we're going to turn it up a notch, you know? And so that's exactly what we did. And so we did biscuits still on Fridays because we were manufacturing the rest of the time. And that's what we do Friday mornings. And there would be like lines, you know, it's so funny too, just how people are like, you walk out and it's a beautiful day and like 6 feet apart. Everyone is 6 feet apart. And I'm like, free hugs, you know, and people are like, no, we'll take your biscuit. And I'm like, okay, all right. And it just kind of kept going. And a buddy of mine, so this is, let's fast forward 4 years later, and, you know, now we've added Saturdays, and that's super intentional. We're about to add Thursdays, and then we're going to add Wednesdays, and because the goal is we're going to build a barbecue and biscuits place, and hopefully maybe one day we'll have one in Olive Branch, Mississippi, you know. So it'll be
great
small,
concept.
Yeah, drive-through, walk-up only, no indoor dining, breakfast and lunch, so like 7 to 2. Just very simple menu, small footprint, easy in and out. Doesn't take a ton of people to do it. And then the focus is on fantastic food that you can get, you know, really quick and easy. So,
well, you know, if you can serve something really simple, especially something that I guess engages the people like a community feel like you've created, you kind of create your own demand. And I'm sure you still sell out. Yeah. Because you're probably cooking to capacity.
Absolutely.
I mean, you know. And
we ran off of one oven until 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
And so this whole time, and the beauty is everyone's like, we need another oven. I'm like, it's okay. Like, look outside. And because no one could come in. Like, everyone stands outside. And if it's raining, we'll put up tents or something. But, like, no one's frowning. Like, everyone's smiling. And I'm like, guys, lines aren't bad. This is an opportunity for everyone to slow down for 15 to 20 minutes on a Friday morning, talk to their neighbor, and then there's like a present at the end. You know what I mean? Then they get a biscuit and they kind of go along their way. And it's a way that, you know, we can say hey to everyone. And I think that's really what kind of like drives me is more the community piece. Sometimes I forget we're running a business, you know? I'm like, all right, guys, let's bring it back in a little bit, you know? But that's what I want. And that's where I'm like, all right, how can we, I'm probably saying too much, but like,
no, I mean, it's really interesting.
Do more of that.
I've always said that I don't want to open a full-blown restaurant, but the whole doing something like what you're doing 1 or 2 days a week and the whole meals to go thing, you know what I mean? Just pre-made stuff that somebody can take home with them, like smoked chicken salad or pimento cheese or, you know, this or that, a barbecue pizza you've already made up and wrapped up and all they got to throw on the smoker. Just those simple things. You know, I'm not going to say I'll end up doing it one day, but it does intrigue me a lot.
I used to say I will never have a restaurant. Like, why? Catering, you know exactly what you're getting. They pay you ahead of time. You drop the food off, like, you're done. You know, and a buddy of mine, Steven Hartsock, he's got a great barbecue restaurant in Cumming, actually. And he texted me, it was probably a couple months ago, and he's like, hey, you know you're kind of already running a restaurant. I was like, no, I'm not. He's like, wait, so people come every Friday
from you.
and buy food from you. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, just think about it. I'm like, yeah, you're exactly right. And the truth is, like, I just, in my head, I'd always told myself, never, never, never. And that's like, I didn't want to, like, put that belief on it anymore. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. So we're under contract on a piece of land now. Met with the architect, the engineer, and, like, it's still, I mean, even if things like construction, the way it works is we're 12 months out, you know? And so, but the beauty is we're kind of learning, you know, like we'll add another day at the shop and we'll see what works and what doesn't work, and we're getting our processes down. And so it's
keep it simple.
The idea is to keep it simple. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So y'all just, what do you do for lunch stuff? I've got to ask that. What was your plans for lunch once you open up?
Like when we do, so we used to do Tuesday pickups too. So we would do Tuesday lunch pickup and then Friday biscuits. And so we'll bring Tuesday lunches back. But so we do everything from, pulled pork, brisket, smoked chicken. We'll do ribs, wings, but like sandwiches. We do tacos, tons of tacos. Like barbecue taco bar is one of our like most requested catering things too. And then once again though, we'll keep it like the idea is like simple and easy. As simple and easy as we can do barbecue. You know what I mean?
So changing gears and talking about the rub business.
Yeah. Which helps pay for all the other stuff. I guess is probably good to talk about.
Yeah. How's the progression of that been from growing small to growing bigger? Because now you're available in Academy.
Yeah.
Right. Along with us.
Academy has been a new thing. We got in this past February, and it's been fantastic. So
they are some of the best people to work with, in my opinion.
Chris is probably the greatest guy,
greatest buyer
like I've ever worked. It's amazing. Like just the communication. What I will say is they have done exactly everything they said they would do.
100%.
Like to the day. It's amazing. And so for that, you're like, man, I wish every relationship. And here's the thing: every relationship is going to be different. You know what I mean? But a lot of times when it's new, you hear things and you're like, there's no way. And it's like been that way the entire time. And so, yeah, super, super blessed to be
I'm sure you're like me. As soon as I picked up Academy, I called Matt Pittman and I'm like, hey, Matt, tell me about this buyer guy. Is he good to work with? What do we, know, whatever. And he's like, man, that is the best buyer ever.
I know. And, it's crazy.
I mean, I couldn't believe when I got on the phone with Chris, everything was just like Matt said.
Yeah.
I mean, 110%. He was spot on the money. And sometimes these companies try to get you for extra money or whatever, right? And Chris was really great about explaining that and how they combated it and what they done. And you just don't see that from a lot of buyers.
He answered every question before I asked him up front. Meaning like, hey, here are the objections we usually get. I'll go ahead and tell you. You know what I mean? Like every single thing. And I'm like, why are we even talking? Like, just
let's go.
Send us a purchase order, man. We're in, And I was like, this is amazing.
So how many other, are y'all in any other big box stores?
No, so that's pretty much, so we are in a lot of like local Ace Hardwares or True Values. We're not in like Ace Corporate or the Ace, I guess, warehouse. And really a lot of the focus for the first 5 or 6 years as we were manufacturing everything ourselves is we could only do as much as we could do. And so I kind of limited the growth in the beginning, but we're trying to run at the speed of cash and roll that way. And so we have a heavy presence in like butcher shops, hardware stores. So in Georgia, like agritourism is huge. And so all the apple farms and peach farms and pecan places. And so like we do a ton in all of those places, which is a big business for us. And then Australia has been a huge market for us too. And so that's still blows my mind.
I feel like they're just big on barbecue in general right now.
They are.
Just
goes in huge waves over there.
Yeah. So it's been, a guy named Brett Stokes reached out to us. It was probably about 7.5 years ago, like Instagram, like direct message. And I'm like, he's like, hey, can I sell your products here in Australia? And I was like, hey, Brad, this can't be a real message, And I was like, sure, and it just worked out. And, it started with 12 cases of product, and now we're actually looking to move our production for Australia over there. So
I remember you saying that when we were in Key West. So you were over there in Australia a few weeks ago, right?
Yeah. Yep. So we went over there, hung out with the team over there. Brett's done an amazing job just building that up. And so the relationship is he is our distributor. So we sell everything from here to him. And so I'm like, hey, as you're continuing to just grow and grow and grow, like, why don't you just start doing it all? I think it'll be a lot cheaper. And then, right now you load stuff up in a container and neither one of us has product for 60 days. You know what I mean? It's just floating. And so for cash flow, it's hard. Like, I need the cash. And he's like, but I don't have the stuff to sell it. And so it's like, how can we work it out to where you control more of the process And then, like, over in Australia, they kind of like different flavors. So how can you kind of design what is homegrown for you guys, and we kind of stick to what we do over here. So it's been a really good relationship.
So y'all are opening up another co-packer in Australia, basically.
Well, technically, he will open it. So it'll be his team, his crew, and he'll be doing it.
That'll be cool.
Yeah.
That'll be really cool. So how many stores are y'all in Australia?
600, maybe 700.
Oh wow, y'all have a big presence in Australia then.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a great market for us.
Alpha simple Instagram message.
I'm telling you, it's still I'm like, oh my gosh, man. Normally I would not delete anything, I'd respond, but I was like, I never would have thought, because I was like, this is a guy who works. So he was basically working for PepsiCo, and he'd worked for them for a long time, and they would sell to grocery stores, so they had an unbelievable network, and he was actually in the barbecue competition world. And so what's crazy is while our reps have never been like on the scene here, like
they are majorly there, right?
Yeah, there were a lot there. I went to Meat Stock it was pre-COVID, it was maybe 5 years ago, and one of the teams that we sponsor won the whole thing, and I'm like, this is like blowing my mind, that just like something that is so common here that we weren't a part of, and it was doing really well over there. And so it's just cool.
That just goes to show you create a quality product.
Yeah, that's what I told him. I was like, hey,
what I'm looking at your rubs here now, and to be honest, I have never had until Key West tried any of your stuff.
Okay.
And I've lived in a bubble. And so I know some of your stuff.
Well, you're pretty busy. You know what I mean? So, like,
I
don't take any offense to that. There's a lot of stuff out there, so.
There he is. I mean, I'm sure you're just like me. You try some stuff.
Yeah.
If you get it, but you don't go out searching for it all the time because you're too busy.
Yeah.
So what is what is your best seller out of all this?
So Spellbound is our #1 seasoning. It probably sells 3-1 over anything else. And so basically it's a pork chicken, kind of like a sweet all-purpose seasoning. Signature's #2, and then my favorite, which you might have had some of, is Kunami. And that's like our like an Asian style barbecue seasoning. And it's like we designed it as a seafood rub, but I love it like on steak. And so, in fact, the guys have to tell me like, hey man, Ryan, would you mind using something other than Kunami when we're trying to get some content? And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, all right, sure. Tell me what we need to use.
Does it have teriyaki powder in it?
It doesn't, but it's got ginger, and we use a turbinado sugar, and so it's got that crunch, and it's got like a Chinese or 5-spice togarashi blend. It's fantastic.
I mix some 5-spice with some ginger, some garlic, onion, different stuff, a little bit of sugar, and I tried to put, what did I just say? My mind went blank. Mine went totally blank.
You mixed all of the spices.
Teriyaki
powder.
Oh, yeah. Yes. And I have noticed that teriyaki powder is just like Worcestershire powder.
It cakes.
Hell to work with.
Yeah, I know. That's the problem. It just you introduce any humidity, which I'm sure you guys are a little bit the same, but Georgia, a lot of it. You know what I mean? So anytime you put any of that in there.
You know how I test rubs a lot once we get the final revision?
Yeah.
I'll chunk them in the garage 3 or 4 months and won't touch them.
Yeah.
Like throw them on top of the fridge in the garage in a box. And I want to see how it reacts to the heat.
Is that the excuse our garage looks the way?
Yeah, I mean, you know that I do that.
You're
and
using
then
that
I'll pull
as
it back
Are you
out,
coming to my
look at it,
house
test
too?
it again. Well, I mean, you can make a fresh rub, but what is that rub going to do when it sets in the sun, blistering on the shelf?
Yeah.
I need to know these types of things.
Or a container on the water.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
need to know all this.
Yeah.
And so I'm very meticulous. I've been talking about coming out with glazes for way before I had a barbecue business online, and before people knew me, I've been making glazes to win barbecue contests. And we're just now going to launch some glazes. I just finalized labels today.
Nice.
They're going into production.
Nice.
I mean, so done sent the email, so it's time to roll now.
We'll be first on the list to get some when you launch
it's
them.
It's different than anything else. Maple honey habanero.
Yum.
And I've done a cherry apple habanero and a brown sugar honey habanero, because a lot of people use brown sugar and honey mixed together. So I want to create a glaze, and it's kind of like some of your rubs here. I see you have a chocolate sea salt caramel.
We do. So we have a dessert line, And that was really my idea is like, goes back to my mom. My mom loves to bake. So we always have cakes and all that stuff. And I'm like, plus I want to like have something in the shelf that everyone's using. And so like, if you don't barbecue or you don't grill, our apple pie is one of our probably a top 5 seasoning for us. Chocolate sea salt caramel is probably one of our number ones on Amazon.
So how do you use that?
So we can use it sweet so apple pie, people do, we've got some shops like restaurants in Texas that use them on their ribs. We use them on like pork chops and then ice cream, toast, anytime apple pie, blondies, stuff like that. But more on the savory side, bacon, like apple pie bacon. And then the chocolate sea salt caramel is good in coffee and desserts. And we've got a blueberry muffin. And then we had a strawberry shortcake and we kind of rolled that out.
Wow.
So
all those sound really, really good.
Just really different,
So tell me about your signature brine. You have a sweet tea brine?
We do. We have a signature and a sweet tea brine. And so basically the signature brine, we use an apple cider vinegar powder in it. So like we called it our COVID test. You open it up and you could not smell it, you had COVID. You know what I mean? Like it would like punch you in the face.
Sounds like a jalapeno powder.
Yeah. I mean, it hits you so hard and people are like, oh God. And I'm like, good news, you don't have COVID. Second of all, it dilute, like when you mix it with water, it's going to chill out, but like it just gives it such a great flavor. So, and then the sweet tea is literally got fresh tea in it. And so that one, we say you don't have to heat it up, but if you steep it a little bit, it works a lot better.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really neat. Yeah, you do have some interesting seasonings. So the Sorta white sauce.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So that is like our take on an Alabama white sauce. And so actually we won chicken wings, People's Choice, at that barbecue competition in Cumming using what we call our Sorta white. And so basically it's an Alabama white, but we use an ancho chili powder and some cayenne in it. And so like the longer it sits, like it gets a little heat to it. It's fantastic. But with brisket, it's unbelievable.
Now, I don't guess I've seen your pineapple chipotle sauce.
That's one of our number one
one-legged chicken buffalo sauce.
Yeah, that's our like a buffalo hot sauce.
Buffalo hot sauce.
Yep.
I've been working on a buffalo flavored hot sauce, and then I converted it over to a dry seasoning.
I think you should just tell everyone about ours. You know what I mean? Like you don't even have to work on one.
But I'm gonna be honest. I think I need to get some of it and try.
Well, I should have brought a bunch of stuff with me. But
yeah, I think I'm gonna have to marry some flavors together here. You have some really interesting. What's the pow pow marinade?
So it's like an Asian style marinade. So pineapple juice. It's got some. We use a tamari blend, like a gluten free soy sauce in there. It's fantastic.
Wow. Is it having sesame seeds?
It does not.
Perfect.
So the Kunami does have sesame, though.
It does?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't have sesame seeds.
You can't have seeds, period.
Seeds in general. Yeah. I'm getting old, man. It sucks.
Is that like diverticulitis? Yeah.
Diverticulitis.
We got a couple guys, and they can't have the Kunami either. Yeah. So that and some have effect with like the black pepper, like if you use a 16 mesh or like a butcher grind. Yeah.
I have to be real careful about that too, and that's why I didn't put I was looking at a 16 mesh pepper, and I got really scared about using it all the time myself, so I cut it down to a 14 mesh.
Got it. Do you know, like, and you don't notice a difference? That's cool. No. That's what I love about the 16 though. Just you can see it, and I just love that kind of with my eyes first.
So I also noticed you make rubs for other people, correct?
We do.
You co-pack.
We do. We co-pack as well. So co-packing is probably about, I would say, maybe 20-25% of our overall business.
You just don't really push it.
We don't. No, it's 100% referral based. We don't even really talk about it a ton, just because our focus is lanes. And so, but what I will say is like, I kind of knew the struggles when I was going. So when we first started, we made our seasonings from day one. But sauces we weren't making, so we didn't have a commercial kitchen, and we didn't have all those things that we could do that. And so just trying to find a co-packer for the sauces was a nightmare. And so you laugh like you've kind of been through the challenges. And so I was like, you know what, if we ever get to a place that we could take it on, like I know that kind of the struggles, like as you're starting a business, you have so many questions, and no one wants to take the time to sit down with you, walk you through it, give you some tips, tell you where you're being an idiot, all those things. I said, we'll do it. And so we started on the seasoning side. And in fact, we were on our way out to Texas for like some Big Green Egg Festival or something. And on the way back, we're like, I think it's time. Like, I think we've kind of got, not that we wanted to lose focus on ours, but like, I think it would give us better buying power. We could bring more people on to help us out. And so that's kind of just where it went. And then once we started doing our own sauces, we started adding those in too.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so one of your biggest guys, I think, would be Tim Van Dorn, right?
Yeah, Tim.
So
I love working with Tim.
He's been an ambassador for y'all
for
a long time, right?
Yep.
Now, is he one of your main ambassadors, I'm assuming?
I would say so. We don't have a ton of them. We've got a ton of people that like just support our stuff, and they're posting all the time, but we don't have a lot of people that I would say would be like lanes like driven,
Yeah.
But yeah, Tim is great. We do a lot with, have you heard of Recteq Grills?
Mm-hmm.
So we do all the Recteq stuff, and that's where a lot of times we can come.
I didn't know y'all done all the Recteq
seasonings. So we designed all their flavors, and then helped them launch those about 7 years ago.
Wow, and they're just now
maybe 6 years ago
getting into Ace Hardwares.
Yeah, I know.
So they were at the show.
Did you see him down there?
Brought old Ray out. Old Ray come out, and I walked around the corner and seen him. I was like, "Man, what are you doing here? You supposed to be on a boat somewhere living." And he's like, "Man, it ain't all fun all the time." He said, "I'm still,
I guarantee
playing
he was
around."
having fun.
And you could tell he was having fun.
He knows how to have a good time. That's what I love. That whole company, they're doing their big Recteq Fest this weekend, and it's an awesome event. So.
I've always heard that. We have sponsored Recteq Fest, sent seasonings down and different stuff, and they've used them in classes and done different things because a lot of the teams, I think, are people they give grills to. We sponsor some of those people, and so those people want to use those while they cook.
Absolutely.
All that, and Jody and them tried to get us to come down, Greg, I don't know, numerous times. And,
well, if you get a chance, I would highly recommend it. Their place is awesome, and just like they're like a family. And I said when we started, I was like, look, this kind of goes back to our conversation about Chris with Academy, and said we're only going to work with people that we enjoy working with, and that doesn't mean that there aren't people out there that we don't work with yet, but like that's what I want to do, and I want to work with like people that not necessarily think like us. I don't care if you think like us, but that we enjoy doing business together and we can learn from each other. Now, I don't know how much they're learning from us. We learn a ton from them, but they've just been an awesome group.
They have been for us too. Well, man, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Have you got any more questions for Ryan?
I don't think so. I think we covered everything.
Yeah, I know. We didn't even have to really look at the sheet much. We just got to rolling and talking. Do you have any major announcements coming up that you'd like?
No, really. I mean, barbecue and biscuits is going to be a big thing, so it's going to take a little bit longer. I'm always thinking like, yeah, we'll roll it out next week, but apparently it takes a little bit longer to build spaces and do that. But
how far are you from Roswell?
So I grew up in Roswell.
So we're going to be there coming up in
a couple weeks.
For Royal Oak Invitational.
Where is it at?
At their headquarters behind the Home Depot.
No way. Yeah, so I went to Roswell High School. So that's where I was born and raised.
So how close is
the Biscuits? I'm about, when are you guys going to be there?
Coming in on a Thursday.
Not this next week. The next
week.
Like
the 13th? No, the next week. The 20th? Maybe the 21st is a Saturday, so the 19th.
19th, 20th, 21st.
Yeah.
I'd love to try to make it on Friday.
Yeah, or we'll bring them to you guys.
Yeah, well, how far away are y'all?
So we're about, at 7:30 in the morning. It's probably an hour. So, but
I'm an early riser.
It'd be worth the trip. So we get there, like the guys get there to start at 2:30. I roll in about 5 now, 5:30. And then we go from 6 to 9.
Wow. Well, but Jacob knows I'm an early riser. I'll be up. We might have to come on over.
I'd love to do that.
That would be so
I'd love
awesome.
to capture some footage over there. Bro, you know what I mean? I would love to do that. We would
love to have you. It would be it'd be an honor for you guys to come out. So
maybe
we'll make like your own biscuit.
Oh.
Meaning you can
I'm sure that pimento cheese brisket's going to be satisfying
You could create your own. So that would be great.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. I didn't realize that it was in Roswell.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Well, tell everybody where they can find you at.
Yeah, so on social media channels, it's Lane's BBQ, lanesbbq.com. You can find our products on Amazon, your local hardware store. On the website, too, we've got links where you can kind of find the store locator. And if you're in Australia, a lot of places.
A lot of places in Australia.
Lots of them.
Well, y'all heard it from Ryan himself. He's got a great business, great product. I'm glad that we've made a connection and become friends over the last, few months.
Yeah, absolutely.
Initially, because I know we've run in the same circle a long time.
The truth is, like, we stay busy. And a lot of times you got to slow down for a minute. Who knew that going to Key West was going to be a chance to, like, meet so many different people? So,
that's exactly right. I can't wait till next year for that Key West trip.
I talked to Burton the other day. I was like, hey, man, we on the list. We on the list.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So thank you guys for having me out.
Thank you for coming on. And as always, I hope you enjoyed Shootin The Que with us.
We did.
Good deal.
Fantastic.
Well, we'll see y'all next week with another episode of Shootin The Que and another guest.
Thank you for tuning in to the Shootin The Que podcast. If you have any comments or suggestions for future episodes, please feel free to reach out to us on our social media channels or through our website. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. Leave us a review if you enjoyed the show. Until next time, keep shooting the Que.